Woodward's doing, Paul.
Good, yeah, good. Everyone's really good, yeah. Family's
Good.
family's doing really well. Little grandson started playing rugby at the Wids now, under nine. So yeah, really
Oh,
excited
happy
over that.
days.
Number two as
Yeah.
well, so dead pleased.
Oh, good stuff, mate. Good stuff. So, obviously, for us that know your viewers and listeners, mate, you've recently just stepped away from the Wids, haven't you? So, how's that felt?
Yeah, yeah, quite emotional actually, because obviously it all started there and it sort of finished there as well. Just after 25 years, it's just gets a little bit hard at times on the
You're
core
only
muscle.
21, aren't you?
Yeah, I'll just brush my hair the other way. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
imagine it is a full circle, mate. I'll pick your
yeah,
brain about that later because
yeah,
obviously you've coached against us a fair bit,
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
And,
can't
and
imagine that was easy at the time, really.
no, definitely never easy, never easy.
Yeah.
And obviously, same old, never celebrating any tries or any victories or
I
anything.
seen you celebrate.
That was in the bar, I think, when someone bought it. So, yeah,
The
yeah,
right place, mate. The right
yeah,
place.
yeah.
So I'll go right back to the start, Woody. And where was home for you, mate? And who lived at home with
Well,
you?
we started living in Thirlmere Way, and then we moved to Netherfield. And I had my mum and dad and my sister Marie. She's 6 years older than me, so she actually got me rugby ready.
Right.
Yeah, it was a lovely upbringing, obviously with lovely parents and a lovely sister as well.
Nice and lucky, mate. So where did the competitiveness come from, Paul? Do you reckon you'd always had it anyway?
I think it was probably growing up with my sister as well. So it just
Yes.
made me that little bit competitive, no matter what I did, really.
I suppose, mate, it's always a blessing that you don't have to live in hand-me-downs because you'd have been in dresses growing up, mate, wouldn't you? So you got the blessing of that, didn't you?
Well, that's good,
Just the
yeah.
90s, but that's
No.
another story.
Yeah, there's no tall forces knocking around, so we're all right. Yeah, good and good.
So how was rugby brought into your life, mate? How was you
Uh,
introduced to it and where
well,
was it?
when we moved to Netherfield, I had to move schools. I used to go to Our Ladies, I had to move schools. So I moved to St Michael's for like a year and a half, and that rugby was quite big at St Michael's at the time, with a teacher called Peter Farrell and obviously Roger Harrison.
Oh,
So
right, okay.
it was literally I sort of fell in love with it straight away as soon as I went there. I did a couple of after school clubs and. We started playing games as well against St Bede's and the local schools, and it was quite competitive. So I quite enjoyed that. So that's the start really, where I started the rugby really.
Junior school rugby, mate, used to be really competitive, didn't it?
Very, very competitive.
Yeah.
St Bede's at my age had a very, very good team. And it was quite competitive games all the time. And we used to meet up on Green Lane. Used to play our games on Green Lane and stuff. So you'd have to walk from school, and they'd obviously walk from St Bede's. They'd probably come a bit posher across the grass, and we'd have to come from St Michael's. So we were probably raring to go when we got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I can
No, because so
some good battles as well, and
yeah,
and again, I think even at that young age, it tests you, it tests your resilience, and I always seem to excel and enjoy it. So
yeah. And was town team a thing then, mate? Was that
yeah,
an option for you?
town team was, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got into the town team as well. And it was a tough team to get into as well because we had, like I said, St Bees had a very good team at the time with David Griffiths and people like that in it.
Right.
It was good to be able to get involved in it.
What do you remember about it, mate? What was the selection process like?
I think it just went down on when you were playing the school games,
Right.
and then I don't recollect going for the trial. I just you sort of got selected and you went to obviously a training session, which probably is a trial when you look at it. But there was no
Yeah.
competitive games, like which years later to get in any sort of like county rugby stuff, like everything was always trials and you were based on how you played and all that. So I don't remember that side of it. It's just literally you got invited to go to the training session and the team was selected from there.
Right, mate. And just while we're on the subject of like early rep stuff, Is the town team something you agree with, mate? Would you like to see that sort of thing back?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think sometimes when you're playing sort of sport, especially rugby, and it's good playing for the school, which unfortunately not many of the schools play now. And I just think from my own experience, I can only speak that it's guided me in life from a very young age. And obviously, I've reaped the benefits of that years to come playing and obviously coaching as well, all from starting at that primary school, playing rugby. So I think town, playing for the town for a younger age, it just gets that assertiveness in you as well and progresses you. Your development starts at a young age, doesn't it? And that's what
Mate, yeah.
better players on.
Yeah. And sometimes, like I've said a few times to people on this, it's like you've just got to learn what no feels like as well. I mean, yeah, like you grow up, mate, you're not surrounded by yeses every day of your life, are you?
No, that's exactly right. That is exactly right. And obviously, I work in schools as well, so I tend to try and instill that in the children as well. Which has been good as well. Obviously, I've had it from a younger age, so I know them all the way through, and it's good. The,
Right, mate. So transition to high school then, was it smooth because did you go with a lot of your school?
Yeah, yeah. The old school. Then we met up with the Symphonies. So I went to Fisher and Moy, see the rugby
Yeah.
academy. I went to there, and obviously we met up with a lot of the Symphonies. And that was really good then. And I just thought my transition into high school because of rugby was very easy. I was a part of that team straight away, and I was with that team all the way through school, and we were there for each other all the way through school as well, which that little bond stayed with us for all the 5 years we were together. We still good friends. Some of us after school all these years later. So I
And
felt
that's what sport's got, that woody in it.
yeah, that's what I push all the time when I say any of my primary school children go to high school, and I say get involved in a team sport, and you'll all gel together and you'll be looked after. Don't be isolated. Make sure you go along and be a part of a team. And you'll reap the benefits all the way through.
So when did both codes become a part of who you was? Was it rugby league right through school, no rugby union or
No, what it was, I did start it when I was at St Michael's. I started for a team called Ditton Dragons, which was quite good. And obviously, Mike O'Neill had played there, and Andy Owain as well. So it was that was how I started playing the rugby league then. And then after I went to Witness Tigers, where I started playing rugby league at Witness Tigers. Started rugby union at Fisher Moor under Mike Ryan, who eventually became my coach as well at the club. And a bit later on, you'll probably know that it was a great historic moment for me and the club. As Mike being the head coach. So at school, he obviously guided me along. With Mike Finn later, he was involved as well. So another Wids lad who was a teacher at the school. So there's quite a few Widnes Rugby Union people involved in the teaching side. So, progressively, I was guided towards the Wids as well.
so you were unlucky, mate. You had both codes when scrums were scrums, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I
Sorry about that.
see an osteopath once a month now. So, and that's for the rest of my life. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
unfortunately, yeah.
So while we're on that then, mate, how had you been with injuries?
Um, well, it's quite really. I had a few bad injuries, nerve injuries in arm and stuff like that. Hip, not too bad. My hips are great; they're still mine at the moment, which looking around is a good thing.
Yeah.
But I have issues with my neck, and apparently, they found out that I didn't have a C6 in my neck, and I've played this level of rugby, and the standard of rugby I've played is unbelievable. So, but again, as I've got older, it started getting worse. And when COVID hit, that's when I really struggled because I couldn't get access to physios and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's what kicked it all off. But yeah, it's just my neck. But again,
Yeah.
you just said about the scrummaging, and it's
Yeah. When it was ruthless, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
very, very much so. Yeah, definitely. I'm surprised I'm not. Everyone said they
I was
haven't
going to
got it.
say, no, you've looked after yourself, haven't you? Considering, and I'll touch on it a bit more later, but you've probably had to alter your game to cater for that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I've always been lucky that I've always been, fairly broad and big and stuff, and and obviously did quite a lot of manual labour, so I was quite strong when I was playing. So probably that obviously helped me a lot, which obviously was a good thing. I think if it had been sat in an office, I'd probably have been struggling.
Yeah, be crippled probably, mate. Went, yeah, you would.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Joking aside.
yeah,
So
definitely.
what was the standard of school rugby like compared to club rugby?
That again was very competitive because we played the likes of Bankfield and Fairfield, and now and again we played where Deacon, which was always a very difficult fixture to get within schools, because I don't know why, but it's just one of those things where, we'd play the likes of St Joseph's, and as I said, and now and again we'd have an odd game against Cowley.
Yeah.
But again, that was the same as Way Deacon. It was always very picky type of thing, but yeah, I was involved with a good rugby union team as well. I didn't start off in the front row. I played full back,
Yeah.
and then obviously I had a little run at second row at
Oh,
school.
nah, get out of
Yeah.
that.
And then Mike Ryan is the guy who just said to me, "Listen, come here. I'm going to throw you in at hooker." So he put me in
Right.
a hooker, and it was a natural thing for me. It was
Yeah.
something that I really enjoyed, and so obviously I'm very grateful to Mike. And even at a young age, he obviously decided that's where I was going to be.
Do you know when you're playing fullback though, mate, and then when you've stepped up to second row and front row, how did your vision of the game change? Because your responsibilities are drastically different, but
Completely.
space is the same, innit?
Yeah, completely. Yeah,
Yeah,
completely. And obviously, it was going from that physicality as well, even at that age. In the
yeah,
scrums, it was quite competitive, and it was a big shock to the system, should we say?
yeah,
The rugby union side of the scrummaging. Just unbelievable when you look at how it was and how I think back to how it was. And look at scrums now; it's just unbelievable the difference.
yeah. So how were you taught to like hook and throw in and stuff? So like one fella taught me it was Ewan's dad. I can't remember his name. Bless him. I know he's not here now. It's like I used to sit on like the prop's leg,
Yeah, yeah,
that type of thing,
yeah,
and
yeah. I mean,
like swing with me right and things like hook with me right, but have me left leg over the right leg sort of thing.
yeah, he was just literally using my right shoulder, and
Yeah,
little things like that sort of Mike said. But you're left to your own devices as well, I would say. So
yeah,
I probably picked a lot of, and as I said again, just picking up on being a bit bigger, that probably helped me because a lot of the hookers I used to play at school were a lot slimmer than me, a lot smaller. So
yeah.
I had two big props at school as well.
Right. Because what rugby league players and fans won't realise is there's a lot of trust in both of them, mate, isn't there?
Yeah, you're too right, mate. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely, definitely, and it's one of them that sometimes you repay it back, But yeah, they definitely got to have your back on that. You've got no arms to help you and stuff. And I have, had an injury later on in when I first got into the senior setup where a scrum had collapsed, and
yeah.
that's where I got my nerve injury type of thing. But
Right.
yeah, I always emphasise when I've done any scrummaging or anything, development work, how important the props are,
Yeah,
in scrum.
yeah. Everyone should have to put their head there now and then, mate, just for a reminder, shouldn't they?
Yeah, well, I think that'd be a good thing for the back sometimes, just to get their head in
Yeah.
the scrummaging machine.
We get in early for the change and let them
Yeah,
get on that
yeah,
machine there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We can get
So
in.
with you flicking back and two between the chords, mate, as a kid, was there any of the intricacies you found hard to flip between, or was it quite smooth?
No, it's quite smooth actually. Yeah, I just felt as though from the rugby union side of it, the ball handling and the tackling had obviously come from rugby league, and again, you're looking at years ahead, and obviously both games learn from each other as well. Whereas rugby
Yeah,
league was brought in for a lot of the professionalism and that. But I just thought at school, it probably paid benefits for me as well. Because when we played against certain schools, we were good ball handlers and that,
yeah,
so typical witness rugby people at that young
yeah.
age.
And was you allowed to play what you see, mate, as a hooker, or were you very much as win your set piece?
Mike always had this sort of enjoyment. He always made sure that you went out and enjoyed that, and you know, I think that's what made it quite exciting, you know, as well. You know, and any teacher that came with us, it was just literally sometimes they weren't rugby teachers, but they just go out and, you know, it wasn't very often you got one like that, but they just go out and just let you enjoy yourself, really. But I think we'd
You
set our
should at that age, mate, shouldn't you?
yeah, that's what I think
Yeah.
that's what I said. That was the biggest thing now because that helped us set our standards as a team and as individuals, you know, and I can't honestly remember anybody having a go at anybody when they made mistakes or anything. You know, it probably did, but I don't remember it. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a bad experience, you know, that obviously I felt at school playing rugby. You know, as I said, we were all seen to be there for each other.
Yeah. So what type of student was you, mate? Was school social for you, or did you take your education serious?
It was social. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, I live for PE. I live for rugby. I live for PE. If they get me reports out, they'll tell you on my reports that you know that obviously if there's a rugby ball, they'd be happy. Uh,
Just for the weekend.
yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously you know we had Mike Ryan, who's my maths teacher. So sometimes
Right.
if we were playing a big game on a Saturday, he'd tell me to go and go down to the PE department, get a rugby ball, and go and practice your goal kicking and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
so
Buddy, what a boy.
yeah, top, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You get shot now, but there you
Do
go.
you
Yeah,
know what, mate? I actually had to go on one of a, like, I was in Paul Newall's team coming through,
yeah.
and I actually, when we went on tour to Spikes, mate, that's who I was one year, Mike Ryan. But I
Was
never
you?
got to meet Mike. Yeah,
Uh,
but I had to be Mike. Yeah,
yeah, top man. Yeah,
I
and again,
believe so, mate.
yeah, a lot of the things that he's obviously gone through with me and that at the club is, you know, he instilled me to be, you know, at the Wids and be a big part of my life and hopefully a big part of the club as well, you know, because I played
Yeah,
all my playing career at the Wids, although I had a couple of choices to go other places. It was the Wids, you know, it was no one was as good as the Wids. And I think, again, that's come from Mike's introduction to getting me up to the club at a very, you know, youngest age, you know, being a part of it.
yeah. I suppose, mate, outside like your mum and dad or your guardians, whoever looks after you, the next big character in your life probably is a teacher. A lot of people will go back and remember a teacher or a few teachers, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, and it was good because like a lot of the teachers, as I said before, were involved with the WID. So when I went up there as a 15-year-old, and you know you were playing in the Colts, you know, which was a tough time. You know, there were some really good players in the Colts around the area. You know, you were playing at a young age. I started playing in the fourth team on a Saturday. Well, you know, it was called the Wasps, I think it was. As one of
Yeah,
to play then and going back to the clubhouse and then some of the teachers were in there and that. And it was good socially, like, you know, you had to watch what you were drinking or eating
yeah,
and that, but it's literally it was good because the connection was there again, you know, and they were looking out for you as
yeah.
well, you know, they treated you differently than at school.
Yeah, and so they should, shouldn't they? Because it's not that environment, mate. So
I,
at
I,
14 and 15, you were playing men's rugby, basically. Yeah,
Yeah, we had an under 16 team at the winter time. There wasn't a big junior section, and
yeah,
a lad run that called Keith McGurk, and he looked after us really well. But on the Saturday, we'd play in the morning for Fishing Moor, and then in the afternoon, I'd go up and play for the Wasps, and you know, with Graham Teasdale, a couple of other lads, you know, and it was Mike Morris. It was good gang, and they looked after you really well. But again, it was senior rugby, which you know you're not allowed to do anymore. But you were against you know older fellas in the scrum. So again, I never felt as though I was ever bothered. You know what I mean? It was a weird thing. You know, I've thought about this many a time. You know, when I've been
you
talking
got
to
used to
people.
your nipple being twisted and like
Yeah,
your
yeah,
jaw being grabbed and that. Yeah,
yeah.
it's never pleasant, like, is it?
I think that was actually me doing it. Yeah, no, but yeah,
Because
some
it
good.
is the dark arts, Woody. Sorry to interrupt you, mate.
No,
Isn't it? That's what that early senior rugby does.
yeah, definitely, and I do think that you know that looking back on that basically did set me up as well. You know, playing
Yeah,
in that team because it gave me that team environment and that you know basically that togetherness. You know, which it was because you've got all these guys who are never going to play first team, but they
yeah,
were looking after you. So in a way, it was a part of the process of your development. by looking after you and making sure that it was just the Wids, and the Wids was instilled in you. Yeah.
So when you were first around the Wids then, mate, was it? Did you notice like a tier system? So like what I don't like now, and I was probably guilty of it when I played Paul. What I is like, if you like the first team's the first team, and then it feels like a separate entity, and then the second's a third sort of like left to it, and like they feel like they ain't half a chance to get up, but it doesn't help they don't train. But
Yeah.
they feel like, you know what I mean? They feel like
Yeah.
they can't get near that. Was that always there? That
No, I always felt as though I looked up to the first team, and it was something that I wanted to emulate, which is probably what you want off in any rugby club.
yeah,
And I always looked at some of the Les Whitfields, your Crack Rileys, Andy Ruski. I'd look at these people and I'd be thinking like, wow, I want to taste of that type of thing. So I didn't get that feeling at that time, but
yeah,
obviously when I was club captain, I was always conscious that that was never going to be like that. And I just thought under my reign, it wasn't, even though we were in the first team, I always tried to make sure the second team had summer. I was having a chat last year about how we used to say we used to get a barrel for the first team. I was captain. I would go to the third team. I'd say, come and get some beer. Because
yeah,
that's what I like. I like that togetherness, that collectiveness, because that's what's sadly gone missing in some rugby clubs. And
yeah. The one club ethos sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
and best players play in the first team, and the next best players try to get in the first team, and that's what should help them to develop.
and that's facts, mate. That's don't. We're
Yeah,
not disrespecting no one. That's just the
no,
way sport is, isn't it?
anyone who puts a jersey on me, I respect, and
Yeah,
so this year I went up with the second team with Josh, and I've done sessions for the third team when I first came back before they had a big game at Ruskin on a Saturday on our match day for the first team. And that's how I come over and give a 15-minute session on we're scrummaging against and I just think it's good for them to see you doing that, because that's a part of it. The first team's playing, but I could stop over and do something, but get them out a bit earlier, get them in earlier, do a bit of work with them to make them feel as though they are a part of it. It's just a little thing, isn't it?
yeah. And there's no club without him. Eventually, if the first team don't need him, the twos will need him.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there is no club without him. And the same with the junior section, really. Like you were saying,
Right.
when you were coming through, there was no junior section. You must look back now and think, like, how good's this?
Oh, it's a marvelous. Yeah. And
Yeah,
again, when you look at our programs over the last couple of seasons that I've been back, it just speaks volumes for all the coaches who've done their job in the years to because it's easy when you're head coach or first forwards coach or whatever, you're in the first team squad. It's all the work that's been put into them in the past. That to me is where the credit comes, because all them coaches who give their free time and time into to sort of develop players, shipping them around on a Sunday and all that, and to me that's a part of the process that just sort of goes unnoticed, which is sad. I've always made an effort of trying to say, like, whenever I've spoken at club dinners when I've been coaching, I'd like to thank the coaches who've helped me, when we give Player of the Year or whatever, or if we've done well, if we win a cup, it's all a part of what's happened in the past as well. It's easy just to arrive in on the waves, but I've always been conscious of that, and I think that's where the development side of the club is what I see. And looking at our club, it is I've always thought it's been absolutely brilliant when I've been coaching at other clubs and I've seen how many witness lads are playing in the team against me and stuff. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And that work that was put in years ago to start it all, it's been absolutely a credit to the club and the people who started it as well. I think I was involved in it a little bit right at the beginning as well, so it was good.
yeah. No, good, mate. So when did you start having to prioritise what rugby you were playing? Because at 15, you're playing school, Colt, senior.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what it was like really was, what it was really as well was literally, I did judo as well, you see. So I did judo, and it come as a class that I was in the culture training, and then it was either the judo was Tuesday, Thursday, the culture training Tuesday, Thursday. So I decided then that I was going to start playing rugby, and that's when it was the Wids really, and nothing else. It was just the Wids. So that's when I decided to start playing just rugby and solely concentrate on rugby.
It's a shame because it probably really helped you that actually, didn't
It,
it?
it did help me, yeah.
Yeah.
I got like up to like my brown belt, so just nearly got my black belt. So it really did help me.
Right.
A lot of tackling and stuff like that was really good. My mum didn't speak to me for a month afterwards.
Yeah.
She used to like, not do me breakfast and all this type of thing, because she thought
Yeah.
it.
Teach you a lesson.
Yeah, but my dad secretly was like patting me on the back, so
Yeah.
he was a big rugby fan. Yeah,
Because
so
it's not that, mate. It's like it's ingrained in the pro game now, isn't it? And you
yeah,
switch your
yeah,
breakdown, tackle technique,
yeah,
defending the ball, winning the ball, jackling.
yeah. And believe it or not, he's helped me over the years as a player, but it's also helped me as a coach as well.
Yeah, to
Because
understand body positioning and
yeah,
things.
yeah, and I
Yeah,
tend to take a ball and I'll do something and try it before you try and sort of
yeah,
coach it as well. So
yeah,
sometimes you do something, they look at you and you think, well, I've done it, it should be all right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No, and sometimes, mate, some lads need to see that, don't they? Actions sometimes speak louder than words when you're in
yeah,
a trackie.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah. And then sometimes I've been a bit sorry, shall we say, the next day when you've done things because you can't move.
Bits.
Yeah, especially the tackling, like yeah. Some quite funny stories over that, but there you go.
Yeah. So how was your first? Do you remember your first senior game then, mate? And was did you feel much of a difference, or because you're in good
Yeah,
shape, is it just the next part of your development?
yeah. No, my first senior game actually was I played at back row, the first team,
Right.
and that was Mike Ryan again. And
Yeah.
he put me in the back row type of thing, I was thinking like, why does he put me here? But I was with a very good side in that, so I played back row, and then eventually I went to hooker. Then, so my first senior game was against Southport, as I say, and it was back row, so it was always a weird thing. But again, when you looked at hookers' roles were like back row players getting across the field and everything. So again, it was a great forward thinking of him because that was
Yeah.
something that you were very conscious of then, that you had to be mobile getting across the field and stuff.
Let's come back round that, Woody, and it.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Best position on the field, I think the back row, mate. You're in everything, aren't you?
Yeah. It is, and I've obviously seen some good back row players and that, and
Yeah.
just think it is a fine art, and
Yeah.
again, a lot of credit isn't given to back row players for what they do.
Yeah. No, so what does that do to your view of the game? Nothing, really, because you play that way anyway.
Uh, Yeah, it does a little bit because you're obviously reading past a line out. You're reading past, when you come out the scrum, you're reading the game, right? You're not just looking for the
Yeah.
next scrum or the next line out. And I always felt as a hooker, I was always purposely trying to think ahead what I should be doing and how I can get across the field. A
Yeah.
lot of referees still tell you I used to cheat running the wrong way, the other side of a line and stuff like that. But again, that to me was like a back row thinking as a front rower getting
Yeah.
across, and I
Well, you're thinking probably three phases ahead, so therefore you won't
yeah,
be offside then, will you, by the
yeah,
time it
no,
comes back to where you want to be?
that's right. Yeah. Because I remember years ago the referee society, obviously quite a lot of the referees, they always used to say to me at the meetings, they'd always say, keep an eye on that Woodward, that Woodward, whatever. They'd say, yeah, it's the number two for witness because he runs offside all the time. But I never got pinged. But that was again, I think that was
Yeah.
the back row thinking, getting across the field. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and you probably did that instinctively at the time as well.
And you get a little bit of freedom in that as well, mate, to play a little bit or to carry or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 'cause I just think again, I keep going back to this, and obviously speaking to people, I've been very fortunate to go other places and speak, and everybody's spoke about witness, and everyone's always said how aggressive the team is and how good ball handlers they are and stuff like that. So again, it's been in that environment. It's got to rub off on you, isn't it?
yeah.
So
Because I think that I don't know if it's been the case with you, but certainly when I was coming through, it was we might not have been great at set piece, but we'll out rugby you. we
Yeah.
just weren't out rugby union. Yeah,
That was the thing that we had to learn. Actually, was actually to be a rugby union side. Especially when I was in the first team.
yeah,
We went on a bit of a run in it, and we were doing really well. Because obviously we'd roll our sleeves up and get stuck in, but then we had to start playing a little bit more streetwise and with rugby union, and I think we learned that. We had a certain Welshman that come along who joined our forces that actually showed us how to ruck and stuff like that. So that
yeah.
was good as well. So yeah, so that was John Whitty when he joined us.
Right.
So, yeah, star.
So how long did it take, or what was the pathway to the first team for you? Did you go through fourth, third, seconds, or did you jump
No,
a
no.
couple?
I think it's because I played for Lancashire Colts and stuff, and that Mick got me involved with the first team, and then we had a trial then at the club because I played at the end of the year in the Colts in the first team at Southport. Then we had the summer, and then we had training sessions, and then you had to have trials basically up at the club, and it was pretty full on. It was
Yeah.
quite full on because you had the first and second team hookers then who were literally they were first and second team hookers, and then this young kid
Volleying
come off
each
the
other and that.
block who thinks
Yeah.
he's the top draw because he's been at Lancashire and stuff like that. So I learned the hard way, but fortunately, obviously it helped me as well because obviously I
Yeah.
went into the first team. So it's
So
fun.
if we go back a little bit then, because I've bypassed that, sorry, but so Lancashire, does that come off the back of trials or club games?
What it was, believe it or not, when I was like 16, I was on with Cheshire Colts.
Right.
There's a couple of us at Cheshire Colts, and I literally was on the bench, and then I played in the Lancashire Colts final at Lee, and Brian Ashton was there because Brian lived in Lee. And he literally after the game we got beat in the final, and he come over to me and said to me, "I believe you play for Cheshire." And I said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "Well, you're not next year. You're going to play for Lancashire." So I was like, "What?" And I got invited to Lancashire trials at Wigan, and I went in, and I literally, and he
That
went,
have been a letter, would he? Sorry, that
"Sorry,
would that have been in through the post, like a letter,
no, it was verbal." Yeah,
verbal?
verbal. Yeah, he was a really nice fella, Brian. But he literally just said, you're going to be playing. And I went to Wigan, and I always remember with all these lads training, playing games and stuff. And I only went on for 10 minutes. I went off. I thought, oh, I've dropped it here. They're not going to pick me here. They went inside the club up at Wigan there. They named the team, the squads, to come out. I was in the squad. So it was
Right.
preset that you were going to be in because of you've been invited along type of thing, and then I played all the
Is
games
it
for the
credit in the
county.
bank, would he, in it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I played all the county games as well, with obviously Dave Griffiths again. He was with me in that. So
Yeah.
and a lad called Mark Shaw from Widnes as well. He was centre.
Right. What were you like in that environment, mate? So, like, on a trial system, was you someone that could go and mix in straight away, or was you a little bit reserved?
No. I think I'm a talker, so I was fine. And again, some of the lads we knew as well because we had a good little collection of lads when we played at Colts that we seemed to get on as well. And a few of them lads, came along to the trials, and one or two made it through to the squad. So even in the trial, it was a nice environment because while you wait to play, you were having a little bit of a chat with people.
So networking before it was a thing, really, mate. Aren't you
Yeah,
building them bridges and stuff?
yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, yeah.
Does that put a tag on your paw when you go back to club rugby? That so you said it did in the trial, and that's internal.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, yeah. When you're playing for Lancashire, you have a target on your back, and you've got to make sure whether you're going to be you can stand up to that, and obviously, yeah, a few little incidents that people have obviously tried on with you and type of thing, but that was what people want to be the best, when they want to take your jersey, basically. So yeah. So when we were playing club games against Orals or Broughton Parks and all that, there was always a target on your back because the Oral Looker was on the bench or something, so they try and have it.
Yeah.
And we were talking about the props before, and they get the mates the props to try and help and stuff. So yeah, yeah, it's
Who were the big clubs when you were growing up, then, mate? Who were the games you'd really want to play in?
Well, when I was in the Colts and everything, it was you like to see your Broughton Parks.
Yeah,
Oral always had a very very good Colts team. Broughton Park was the same. Wigan was very similar to
yeah,
us. There were a lot of rugby league lads, and they were very aggressive, tough games, you know. So, and it was literally when you look at it, probably the rugby league towns were the ones where it was really tough and hard because, you know,
yeah.
it was pretty much the same, really. Yeah.
Right. So how long out of Colts? So you went straight from Colts to first team, yeah,
Yeah,
virtually.
yeah. I picked
Just
it.
for viewers and listeners, mate, that's like probably 4 or 5 standards difference in it.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you know, I was very fortunate that when I went to the first team as well. It was a good, you know, a great bunch of lads who were good rugby players as well. You know, and I picked an injury up as well that literally put me out for 12 months. But then I came back and then again went back into the first team type of thing. You know, so been quite fortunate that I spent a lot of my rugby in the first team at the club all the way up till 38, basically.
Some going that, mate, in it in that position. So a little bit, you said you were out for 12 months there, mate.
Yeah,
How tricky's that? So did you have a family at this point? And there's work, there's life, there's everyday things
well,
that you probably couldn't do, would he want there?
yeah, I wasn't quite married then, so I was still at
Yeah,
home when that happened. Like you know, so yeah, so yeah, but again, you know, it was the wids were quite good, and where I worked as well, that they were quite good as well, type of thing, you know. But it's
you're quite lucky.
yeah, very lucky, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very lucky that way.
I
But
suppose you make your own luck, mate, because no offense, but you're not at all ragged out, are you? Like, there's not really, no, like, I didn't play against you out, and unfortunately, I never got coached by you. I've just played against your teams that have been coached, but you've
yeah,
never been horrible or you've never been like naughty or nothing. So, really, it's come back round and helped you early on, hasn't it?
yeah, and again, you know, when I put that thing on Facebook the other day, you know, because obviously you've got a lot of friends across, you know, the country basically in Australia, New Zealand as well, and I just put that on just to let everybody know that you know I was stepping down from senior rugby, and some of the comments and some of the private messages I've had, I've been absolutely blown away from it. You know, you don't realise how much. You know, you've sort of helped people over the years, and you know, it was quite emotional actually, and I look at it, I just think to myself, I've been very grateful and that for everything that's happened. And again, it all comes back from starting at the Wids and everything. It's been a massive part. No matter what I've done, it keeps coming back to the Wids all the time. It's where
Yeah.
it started.
It's how you've carried yourself as well, mate. The wids can take you to water, but you've got a drink sort of thing, haven't you?
Yeah,
And
no, you're right. Yeah, you're
yeah,
right. Yeah.
yeah,
So obviously, you know, it's their personality, and you know, I obviously learned very years ago about you know, obviously making sure my man management skills was up there. You know,
yeah,
when I used to tutor for the RFE, I always used to say to coaches, how much knowledge of the game do you think you need at seniors? And you know, we always I'd write it down afterwards, and they were all surprised when I said like, you know, you need 70% man management, 30% knowledge of the game. You know, when you're working with senior
yeah.
players. And they were all like,
And it is though, isn't it? Even like we'll
yeah,
talk about some of the clubs you've been at, and obviously they get a bit of help financial wise, don't they, at some of the
yeah,
clubs you've been. And it's well noted, it's not no secret, but
no,
still you've got to still motivate them, mate, and
yeah,
get the
that's.
best out of them, haven't you?
Yeah. I think honesty's always pay as well. I've always been very honest with players and stuff, you know, and I think
Did
that,
you like it that way then, Woody?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And I just think it, you know, if you're honest and that, you know, you're going to get the best out of the team, aren't you? And you know, if they don't like your honesty, well, then perhaps they shouldn't be a part of the team. You know, it's there to help to develop them, isn't it?
no, it
Develop
isn't.
them.
And it's like we said before as a kid, mate, you're not going to start every week. You're going to be told, actually, you weren't good enough last week or last
Yeah,
month. I think you
yeah,
need to rediscover yourself in the twos or threes and
yeah.
find your way back, sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a saying I learned years ago when some lads come questioning me, you know, when they weren't in the squad and you know potentially they're going to get a bit of money, you know, and I just said to him, listen, I can either tell you something that's going to, you know, fuel your ego, or I can tell you the truth. What do you want? And
Yeah.
generally they just walk away. So
Right. So won't even listen to the truth.
they don't want to listen to the truth, do they? So it's like, do you want me to tell you something that will make you feel good, or do you want me to tell you the truth? So you know,
Yeah.
that's
But
helped me out a few selection situations, I can tell you.
yeah, well, you find out about some of them, mate, don't you? You
Yeah,
find
yeah,
out why they're there, really. I know the money
and,
helps, but you've
yeah,
got to want to be there initially,
and I respect
I
them.
think.
I respect them for walking away
Yeah, yeah,
because you know they've just told me what their personality's like. You know, that's fine. They
yeah.
realised and they've took it on board and gone. You know, they didn't want me to put a big fluffy hand around them. So yeah.
You just can't do that all the time, Paul, can you? It's simple as. So, did winning the Lancashire Cup as a colt get you prepared for what you were going to go on to do?
Well, there's a bit story of that because obviously, when I had my years, we sort of got to the final, and got beat.
Right,
I was involved at 15 when the Lancashire Colts when we won the Lancashire Cup at Wigan. I'd played in every round, and then in the final, Colin Rigby had said to me, "Listen, I'm not going to play you in the final because you know the lad who was coming back in after suspension, he's going to play, but you will get your opportunity." And I spoke to him the other week, actually. It's John Barrow's funeral. I was having a chat with him over it, like, you know, and I said, "You were right." Like, so I did get my turn later on at the Wids, but, you know,
good job, innit?
I, yeah, I totally respected him, you know, for it. But
Yeah,
you know, again, if it, and I could understand, like, you know, because it was John Barrett had been, he'd actually been banned, so he didn't play, and I played a lot again, and that was really tough. That was really tough. Them Lancashire Cups semi-finals and stuff. You know, it was really an aggressive game then because there was some really good players knocking around. You know,
yeah.
a couple probably went on to play rugby league as well. You know, Derek Pike, people like
The
that.
games are on the edge as well, Paul. It is a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But again, you know, that was a situation. So obviously, then when I got to my finals, we got beat by Oral and that, you know. So, but again, out of my final, I got me sort of chance with Lancashire, didn't I? Because that's where
yeah.
I got me approached to go and play for Lancashire Colts.
So, do you feel? Oh, I certainly do, but I'm not going to speak for you. Do you feel everything happens for a reason, Paul?
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
yeah. So you could like, is it looking back you find it easier to accept it, or was you pretty good at the time?
At the time, I was gutted, absolutely,
Yeah,
and embarrassed as well. Probably, you know, I felt a bit embarrassed. But then I was made to feel very welcome by all the rest of the lads who were a lot older than me. You know, a couple of years older than me, but they made me feel a big part of it when they won the cup and that. So again, looking back on that was probably a part of the healing process at that time. You know, and again, that's that collectiveness again. You know, we've won and basically we'll go make a fuss of somebody who didn't play. But again, that was respect probably as well that I played in every round and they got to the final as you been a part of that team, but you didn't get that opportunity.
so when you progressed into the first team, mate, do you remember what year about that would have been that you were consistently selected?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't say, but
Right. So how quick was it until you become successful in winning an open age Lancashire Cup, which was a massive deal for anyone that's watching and listening now?
yeah, yeah,
It was well contested, mate. Everyone wanted to win it, didn't they?
yeah, yeah. We. I mean, obviously, every game was a really, really tough physical game.
Yeah.
We're talking like international players playing against you, Ireland, Scotland, British Lion players playing against you, you know, all for the Lancashire Cup because the northern part of the country at that time was you know developing a lot of international players as well, you know, and again, you know, we had people playing like Kevin O'Brien who played for Ireland and stuff. All these lads playing in the team. So Sundays and it was good because obviously if we had a home draw, nobody wanted to come to witness. I found that out later on
Yeah.
to do the draw in Radio Merseyside live. And then they'd do an oral, they'd be saying, like, you know, let's say number 7, witness. They'd go, Waterloo, 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 you know. So that,
Yeah.
and I think when you look at that, listening to somebody who's involved in it, that's a top credit to our club that at the time because
Yeah.
you're talking these clubs did not want to come to Heath Road. And obviously the year we won that, we beat a lot of good teams as well, you know. So it was, yeah, the Lancashire Cups was something special, very
Yeah.
special.
So outside of the final, mate, is there a particular round that stood out as like for any particular reason?
Yeah, probably when we played against Waterloo. So we played against Colin Fisher, who was obviously Scotland hooker and went on the Lions and stuff. And I had a really good game against him and that. And to be fair, he was the one who approached Gareth Hopkins to say for me to go to Waterloo, you know. So I did go to Waterloo for two training sessions, but I missed the Wids, so I just came back to the Wids.
Right. Was there any other opportunities to leave the Lids, mate?
Yeah,
Because what they won't realise back then, like it weren't professional, but it virtually was at that level, wasn't it?
yeah.
So
I mean,
it's a good opportunity.
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's about Liverpool St Helens, and there's a story though that I used to get a regular phone call on a Sunday night off a
Right.
lovely man called Alan Walker who wanted me to go to Liverpool St Helens to meet up with Colin King, who played at Liverpool, and then he was obviously went to Liverpool St Helens when he joined, and Colin played through the Colts with me at prop, and so he's an ex-Bankfield lad. So yeah, they every Sunday you'd expect a phone call, any time from 5 o'clock till 6, and it'd be Alan just saying how the day, how your game went, and how was,
Yeah.
did you enjoy it today, and did you win and stuff like that. And then
Just
obviously,
testing the water, really.
yeah, but I met up with him
Yeah.
later on in life,
Yeah.
which was good. Yeah, it's really
So
good.
it's so again, that's another full circle moment, which we'll touch on in a bit. So did you always have a good relationship with them despite the rivalry, mate?
Yeah, with a couple of individual players, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't seem to have a good relationship with a lot of, especially with the front row as well. It was a very strange union that you got respect, and afterwards. So no matter which club you went, was were very highly thought of, and obviously respecting the toughness and competition that they were getting every week. When you're playing against you.
So what was it like when you got your hands on the trophy, mate? And
Ah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, best
yeah,
one of the best times. It's still quite emotional to me now, really, because witness and obviously, I mentioned Mike Ryan before, to share that experience with him as well. And a lot of what a great team it was, and
yeah,
everybody got on with everybody. It was just a really good performance, yeah. And in the town as well, it went down really well. We had support off everybody really. Some of the amateur
yeah.
league lads were coming on a Sunday to watch because it was a watchable performance. In them days, rugby league was rugby league, and rugby union was a waste of Vaseline or whatever they'd say. But
Well, yeah, the club had had that thing where they wouldn't
yeah,
let the likes of Jimmy O'Neill in the club and that, weren't
yeah,
it? We had a
yeah,
bit of a
there was
torrid time, yeah.
sad times. There was a lot of a lot of hypocrisy at the time. Even down to selection. It's like I only found out later on when I was at Lee. I was talking to a guy who's the chief selector, and he actually resigned from selection because he was saying that because potentially I should have moved through to England because through the Colts, but they'd done a
Yeah.
deal with a player and stuff like that. And it just upsets you that. So I've always made sure that we make every player, any selection and anything, is you're there for a reason, and you've earned your right, and that
Yes.
went on with that,
Well,
didn't it? It was
yeah, yeah.
it,
Well, that's
unfortunately.
what I say. You were generally playing against internationals that blokes would have been watching in the Five Nations and Six
Yeah,
Nations on a weekend, weren't
yeah,
they?
that's it. Yeah, and the biggest thing that's upset me, it took me to 33 to play full Lancashire. So
Yeah.
that again was something that was said that if I had perhaps at another club, I probably might have got that chance, a bit
I
earlier.
still think that's the case a little bit, mate.
Yeah,
Me, I
yeah.
do. Yeah, unfortunately, I do. Yeah,
I mean, when I was Lancashire Colts coach as well, so that was a good thing because that was a part of my process with a lad called Andy Burtley, so he played at Birkenhead Park, and we sort of made sure that lads were good enough to play for the team and everything.
yeah.
We were quite fair as well, So
Oh, God, mate, and that is what it's about, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I got a phone call or somebody saying, "Oh, we want such a body in."
Yeah,
I took it at home, and we'd named the team to play against Cheshire at Willington Park, and we've got to put such a body in. And I said, "No, no, we're not doing that. He's not up to it." And well, this and this and that. No, I'll tell you what, get another coach. And then
yeah.
and then next I rang Andy Burtwell, I told Andy, and then Andy rang me back and said, like, no. he said, "No way, I'm sticking with Woody. That's what we're doing," type of thing. And that was for a
Yeah,
comment, and we ended up beating Cheshire at Willington Park as well. So it turned out right.
yeah. That's good. Well, if they want to be like that, they should just say to a coach, "You're not picking a team. You're coaching a team. I'll pick the
Yeah,
team." And I'll
yeah,
see how many coaches take that job then,
yeah,
Paul, innit?
exactly. Yeah, but I
Yeah,
think them days though that's how it was, wasn't it?
yeah,
But then obviously the coaches when I was coming through, that's where you started. That's when you were picking your teams and everything.
yeah.
So yeah,
So how long till you were captain then, mate? And just for viewers and listeners, can you explain how a rugby union captain works? Because it's not
yeah.
just a Saturday, is it?
No, no. I mean, them days it was pretty full on.
Yeah,
You finished on a Saturday and it started on Sunday morning. It was everything. You were doing all kind, any little job rugby wise, you were expected to do it. You sat on the general committee as well, so you'd be going to general committee meetings and that. So it was not just the rugby side of it; it was everything you were involved in. And again,
does it test you that, mate? Because I imagine it pushes your love of the game so far that.
yeah, I quite enjoyed it actually, to be honest, because I
Right.
felt as though I was involved in decisions as well, and at the time, you basically was very well respected being the club captain as well. I'm not saying that's not like that now, but you get respected for on the field, but you were doing things off the field, and like I said to you about before about the second team, third team, I felt as though in my role to obviously involve that side of it. It wasn't just about the first team. You're trying to involve everybody. So it was good, and you have to do your own captains evenings. It was a sellout. You had to organise that as well. So that was
They were nice with you then, eh?
sorry.
They were nice with you then, eh?
Yeah,
Go and
but
run the club, mate.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's exactly. It was a lot of responsibility. But
Yeah,
and I think it went with the job at that time, and I think as the game's progressed on a little bit, obviously it's a lot for the players now to perhaps take that sort of role on board as well, because obviously work demands as well and shift work and stuff. Some people can't do that.
yeah. So after the winning the Lancashire Cup, mate, uh, what happened? Did you decline a little bit? Because I imagine getting to that peak, it's hard to get back there, isn't it?
Uh, Yeah, well, we actually went on to two other finals then, didn't we? We got beat by
Right.
Dale Loon up at Preston, and then we got beat by Newcastle
Yeah.
St Helens at West Park. So we potentially could have got three. Which, when you think about that, is some
They're
feat to
outstanding.
three Lancashire
Yeah.
Cup finals. So yeah, and again, we were a bit unlucky in probably both games at the end, but. Yeah, so I think we carried on okay, really,
Yeah.
with the introduction of one or two players into the squad, and that was it.
I say, with you playing as long as you did, mate, you're probably seeing a few little rebirths and that. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
it's
so
hard to do in it, Paul. It's when like
yeah,
going back to that grind and you're losing games, you usually win, and
yeah,
training numbers are dropping, and like you said, the work life balance is now changing on you as well, isn't it? Where it
yeah.
used to be really encouraged, it's less encouraged, and
That, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I would like to know how many props I've had at the Wids. Different sets of
yeah,
props. With all the time, and I was always sort of a permanent fixture at two, and and then I started playing prop as well then because obviously we were struggling a little bit. So I'd end up moving one and three, playing one and three, which helped me anyway because obviously. When I moved on to become a scrum coach, I was quite good because I could play 1-2, and when I played for Lancashire at hook and prop as well, at senior level. So the club helped me that way because you had to step up
is
and
that what you call it,
what
mate?
I'll
Yeah, the
do.
club helped me.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, but again, I'm putting you in a position on a Saturday, you're captain, and then you've got a prop, but you've got a hooker. So I'll move to prop, and you bring a hooker in. So
Yeah,
it was, and again, some of them games are quite tough as well. You're playing against county props, so
yeah.
you had to think on your feet.
So when did you notice um, coaching tendencies entering your game or your training, mate?
I think being captain probably helped it. I think,
Yeah,
obviously when you're captain as well, because obviously when I was captain as well, we went through the era at the club where we had to pay coaches and a couple of players are getting paid, stuff like that, because obviously the rugby union had gone like sort of mad at the time, with players
yeah,
and stuff, so I felt like as though that at time that helped me a little bit because obviously we had a coach and then on the field I was captain and then you had to make decisions. The coach was trying to make a decision for you on the field, so you had to sort of overrule that, because you
yeah.
had to show, the bit of, you know, for the players, you want to sort of show an example that you're the captain because you can't have a player coach telling you what to do during the game, and some
Yeah.
people might not agree with that, but I just think, a couple of the kids, you had a
Well,
chat.
you're in the feel of it, Woody,
Yeah,
aren't you? You're feeling
yeah,
momentum, you're feeling how you're playing, and
yeah, that's it. And I had a chat with Murray King about this the other week because obviously there was a few
mm,
incidents with Murray where I sort of overruled and the good thing came off that we won the games because of Murray's conversions and stuff like that. So,
right.
that was interesting listening to Murray about it, having a chat with him about it in the club a
Yeah.
couple of weeks ago. So yeah, very
So
strange.
how were attitudes with people that weren't getting paid, knowing people were getting paid, and vice versa? Was that an hard balance, Woody?
Yeah, it was. I should imagine. Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, a lot of it, was difficult because every club was doing it.
Right.
And I think again, if players came in, they had to perform the best all the time because obviously they were under pressure as well. We had some players from Leeds Tykes, we had a couple of Waterloo lads and Manchester. There's a few lads come along, um,
And
and
did they buy in the same, mate?
sorry,
Did they buy in the same?
believe it or not, yes, they did.
Yeah.
They became a part of it, and I think there was people around that sort of, encouraged them and involved them as well. So um, uh, there was, I would honestly say that everyone who came, because don't forget we had Jamie Bloom playing for us as well, so.
Yeah.
Uh, and he actually loved it. They loved the environment of the Wids, the rugby union as well, which was good.
Because I imagine like you're sort of stuck in the middle, mate, aren't you? Like cut you and you bleed width. You've got to please the coach, you've got to please committee, and then you've got to keep people from being disgruntled.
Yeah,
You've
yeah,
only got one set of hands, haven't you?
yeah. No, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
So I
and
imagine it was tricky to be you for a bit.
yeah, it was. It was because I said you also got a lot of friends outside the team as well, haven't you? As well,
Yeah.
the club. Yeah, and I think that they did it for 2 years, captain, and then in the second year, I was like retiring, finishing, and that's when I got the call off Mike to say, listen, we've not got many senior players. You're going to have to come back in,
Yeah.
So that,
And you did.
yeah, I had to because
Yeah.
that's why I did 3 years, believe it or not, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't like to think whether we'd still have a club because we only
I
had
know it's sad that really, innit?
we only had so many, and we learned it, and thankfully we've learned from it, and we've done that ever since.
Yeah.
That thing, um,
Yeah.
which is good. And you look at the club, and it's fantastic when you look inside it, isn't it? It's
No, we're lucky, mate, aren't we, with what we've got?
yeah, and
Yeah.
other clubs I've brought to, I've been coaching, they've always said how we love coming in the Wids, the environment, the atmosphere, and that,
Yeah.
and that's very hard to find this day and age.
It is. I'll be honest, some of the teams in that league, and you've caught some of them, like, considering what you hear they pay people, you go and you think you'd do something with this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like, not being rude, you just like that might be because of how lucky we are, Paul, that
yeah,
the Wids have moved with it.
yeah, exactly. But we said we learned a lesson, didn't we? And
Yeah,
it was good. And then at the time, it was you had to try. Probably the people who were there making shit had to run with it because that's what everyone else was doing. It wasn't as though we were just
yeah.
isolated. But yeah, and some clubs unfortunately never made it, did they? They went bankrupt,
No.
closed, and
Yeah, no, they just
you know,
dropped down the leagues, mate, and they're struggling to come back from it, aren't they? And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
they're not attractable anymore for people and things. Yeah,
no, exactly,
especially a lot of them, mate. You got to travel to. So when
yeah,
you've done that and you fell down the ladder, it's
yeah,
hard to go out with your way for sometimes a crap game in it and no
yeah,
atmosphere in the
that,
club and
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. the winter's always been, but it's always buzzing. I mean, last year on that run to Twickenham, it was just unbelievable, the atmosphere in the club afterwards.
Yeah, it was. I just jumped on the back of the wave, me, like near the end, but like it's boss seeing your mates do well in it as well. It's
Yeah, yeah,
like it's
yeah,
probably a bit better than you doing well actually when you know how hard they've worked and they've
yeah,
done the
yeah.
little shitty bits like we've done in the past and that.
Yeah, no, it's good, and again, it's quite emotional for me. Again, it's something that it's an historic moment for the club, and being a part of it. It's just unbelievable to say the truth. I know we didn't get what we wanted at the end of it, but to get there and the way we played in the build-up was just a credit to the lads. A credit
Yeah,
to everyone.
yeah. No, and we'll therefore talk a bit more about that in a bit, mate. But that call up to Lancashire, the senior team, it's sort of like it's the pinnacle for you because you've been let down with selection in the past.
Yeah,
What was that like for you?
it was brilliant actually because we'd gone to Liverpool St Helens for the trials, and John Bevan was the coach. He was playing for Warrington on the wing. He was a teacher at Arnold School. He was the Lancashire coach, and we picked a squad and we were going to Holland. So we literally were going over to play in a tournament in Holland. So we went over with John, and he had this little bit of a rugby league in him as well, type of thing. So
Yeah,
I had a couple of like lucky things in the trial that I could, do something that progressed him to think, oh, he's all right, that type of thing.
yeah,
So it was good
yeah,
having him. And then when we went over there, we played like 2 games. We ended up winning the tournament as well. So it was good because a lot of the lads I'd played against, they were already in the squad and that, and it was good because I felt as though you were a big part of it when you went straight in anywhere. Because
yeah,
going back to the cup competition on the Sunday, you're meeting these lads, and they just had
yeah,
utter respect for you from coming from Widnes.
yeah. And you feel validated that you've bided your time, you've had the right attitude, the right
Yeah,
mentality, and
yeah, yeah.
it's come along. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, looking back on it, I would never have changed anything. People ask me the question, would you have gone to what? Would you gone there? And I said, no. I played all my rugby at the Wids, and that's where I wanted to play my rugby. And
yeah,
it took me to 33 to get what I wanted. And I feel happy with that. Because
yeah.
obviously probably done it the harder way. So
Yeah. There's a lot of loyalty at the Wids, mate, and so you're looking at crap players.
oh well,
I'm no doubt I'm going to miss a few more, like
yeah,
yourself,
yeah. I've got
Kev
role models.
Leddy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all
Role,
the younger Rileys that done one, Phil
yeah,
Fartley.
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
But no, there is a lot of loyalty
yeah,
there, mate, into like
yeah,
Tom O'Neill at the minute.
yeah,
Andy Owens come back when he was playing because it weren't for
yeah,
him, and
top lad as well.
grass
Yeah,
isn't always greener, mate, is it?
no, no, that's right. Yeah, that is. And again, you only have to look at the last couple of seasons, and what you've just been saying then about that loyalty and all that. That the lads have rocked up every Saturday, and we might not have prepared 100%, but rocked up on a Saturday, and they've put the shift in without a doubt. And again, that's all coming from when they were juniors as well. It's all been bred into them, type of thing. To be that team environment.
When did coaching become the next step for you, mate? Did you have a little bit of time away first?
At the Wids, what happened was, unfortunately, we had a Mosi Kaloto and I was sort of like involved a bit in a Mosi. He was like I was like back end of my playing career, and Mosi was the coach, and then Mosi got finished at the club, and then I sort of stepped up and started doing a little bit of the coaching with a lad called Biffa Paul Smith, who was a back row player. He helped as well in that, so I did that for a bit. So that's where I sort of started getting that. Well, hang on, there's something different here than playing rugby, So that's where it first started, really.
Yeah, and how different was it from playing? How did the relationships change and things like that?
Uh, well, to me, it was like the medicine of not playing, but being
Yeah,
involved. But I always felt as though like you sort of had to like not be a player. Very early on, that was in my mindset that I can't be a player. So I learned then that the massive difference was if I was going to be a coach, I can't be a player and I can't,
yeah,
and you can talk to players and all the rest of it, but you've got to let them do their thing as well. So I think
yeah,
that was something that, again, I think back, if I hadn't perhaps been captain and stuff, I might not have been, because obviously you look outside the team when you're the captain, don't you? You've got to look at the interest of everybody, and if anyone's not playing very well, you've got to try and give them,
yeah,
give them a bit of a nudge in the back, try and get a bit more out of them. And I think that's a part of coaching as well, isn't it? So I think,
yeah.
the captaincy obviously had a big burden on it.
So you adapted quite well. So that's the one thing when I look back, I probably over struggled with, like, people not necessarily seeing what you see.
Yeah, yeah,
If that makes sense. So, like, if I could see something, because we were on about before, we're probably pretty similar where we see the game a little bit, a few phases ahead of others, maybe
yeah,
just to be as nice as I can.
yeah,
And you sort of see something shaping, and when
yeah.
you're trying to
But
probably not put it across the right way, like that's what I struggled with.
yeah, no, that's right. I mean, I've always made sure that, like, when a coaching plays, I mean, some of the lads at the coach, like, when you see something, you've got to see something ahead of that, because that what you're seeing is what you're creating ahead of it. It's not just,
Yeah,
and it's just that outlook of, like, 3 or 4 phases down, you want to be there, but how do you
yeah,
get to there? Think it, and you've got to.
yeah,
And I think that's the big thing as well, that start looking at it completely differently, and bringing the players, letting the players be a part of that, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that'll do it on the field.
yeah, and
So
yeah, and I don't mind a team throwing the ball about, Woody, but my thing was you got to earn the right to do it.
yeah, we think that, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that was my that, and sometimes, like, no offense to the second team lads, I've been a second team lad myself. Don't see it that way. Did he think like Aaron Globetrotters?
Yeah, yeah,
But there's repercussions of overplaying in the wrong areas, isn't there?
yeah, too right. Yeah, it's to say
Yeah,
it's
you
it,
go and do it if you think you confront it,
yeah,
but earn the right to do it. Yeah,
yeah. No, that's exactly right. It's the only way you can play rugby, isn't it? You got to earn the right to play it, and you got to put the hard shift in as well. It's not Nothing's going to be easy, And again, it's that when you're playing games and things are not coming off, it's how you get that bit extra out of it as well.
how do you cope with that as well, innit?
Yeah, that's the big
Yeah,
thing. It's that personality and character. That's and sometimes you're saying that before. I can see that in look at people at training. I look at how they react to things, and you can see in big games as well, tough games. The personality, the character comes out as well.
yeah. So when did Neil Kelly and Witness come along, or was there something before that?
No, it was quite fortunate actually, because I was coaching at the Plus Intelligence. I got invited to the club dinner by Neil Ankers. So Neil's a good mate of mine. We go back a long way. So I went,
Yeah,
and he'd invited Neil Kelly. So we sort of sat at the same table, and I was doing bits of work for the RFU. Then I did a bit of a job where I had to devise a scrum course, which we could educate players, because obviously we're running down on front row players. So my sort of little assignments was trying to build a club and stuff. We were looking at how we could reintroduce some coaching sessions for scrummaging and bring referees in and stuff like that. So Dave Southern, who was the RFU North guy, he just a good friend of mine, played at the Wits, funny enough, asked me to start looking at stuff. So I started doing that. So the reason it happened was having a meal, and obviously Neil's chatting away, and he's mentioned that I've been doing this bits of scrummaging for the RFU and type of thing. So Neil said to me, "Would you like to come down and do a session?" I was thinking, session? What with the Vikings? Because they're in
yeah,
Northern Ford at the time.
yeah,
So, and I went down this night, and all the players were there. It's a star-studded team, and I'm down at the stadium, and we do this bits of scrummaging with the forwards and stuff, and I did a build-up and everything, the warm-up and a few little games and stuff, and they sort of enjoyed it. So then he invited me along to the first game away, and he always said in his old mind he likes to score a pushover try in rugby league. Absolutely star fella, absolutely brilliant man. So we
yeah,
literally, I sort of got involved that way really, and I became a part of it. And then we obviously went to the final at when we beat Oldham at
yeah.
Rochdale. So I was a part of that as well when he asked me to go, and I went the night before and everything. And it was an absolutely fantastic experience. I've always, as a kid growing up, I always watched the FA Cup finals, the Rugby League Challenge Cup final. They used to have the police motorbikes in the front of the bus, and
Yeah,
I remember pulling off at. We stayed at Brighouse. The night before, we pulled up at Rochdale just off the motorway, and the police motorbikes were waiting for us. And
yeah.
I was just in heaven, absolutely.
Well, you're a local lad as well. It must be
Well,
like
the next
a
thing we
dream job, isn't it?
yeah, we're getting off the bus at Rochdale, and all the witness fans are there, and the lads are getting off the bus, and all you could hear was, "All right, Woody, I Woody, I Woody, I Woody, I Woody." And Neil Kelly turned around and sort of like, like a pop star here or something. So, but again,
But
it
you
was quite,
felt it.
quite a few people from the Wids as well, and people
Yeah.
at Wid. So that was, and then to win it as well was just unbelievable, absolutely brilliant.
So was that exposure into a career that you didn't realise you really necessarily wanted to go into?
I didn't expect it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
Obviously, we've been a rugby union coach as well, but I
yeah,
just felt very, and I keep saying it to people, like I felt very fortunate, that I've done that as well, especially with my hometown team as well, and some of the
yeah.
people that I've been able to coach as well. It's just been outstanding and absolutely great personalities and friends as well, which have been quite
You've been
fortunate.
boss for your Dan as well, that wouldn't it? Like,
Yeah, well, our dad done really well because Neil Kelly used to come our house quite regularly because he
right,
lived in Runcorn in Jim's house, and
right.
he didn't have Sky in the house, so he used to come our house. So he'd rock up here every Friday night, and he'd
Yeah.
have a
Hopefully with a Paul's chippy in hand.
yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, Maureen used to cook for him, and then he'd have a meal and stuff like that, and then he'd sit and
Yeah.
watch it, So, but yeah, he's absolutely. Our dad was just made up, I just sat there.
But it was a bit surreal, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he's just a lovely man, absolutely top fella, absolutely top
Yeah.
fella.
Me and a few of the lads like Mike Jones and that, we bumped into him in
Yeah,
Romania.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Well,
mad that, isn't it?
I got him into rugby union coaching, so that's quite good actually, because he helped me,
Right.
and then I helped him. I got him fast track really, so he went
Yeah.
and done his level 2 straight away.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, but he's understand. He liked rugby union, so I was quite pleased because obviously he went to Ulster,
Yeah.
and he was at Ulster, and then he went to Romania as well. I think he ended up at
Yeah.
Doncaster as well, doing a bit there.
Right.
The rugby union helped him as well, after his rugby league.
It's nice when you can scratch each other's back like that, Paul. Like it's been very like beneficial to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for everything he did. Just he's not just but his involvement all the time. He just made you a big part of everything, which was a blessing, and I've learned a lot off him from that as well, especially
Yeah.
coaching wise. Listening to been fortunate to listening to talking in the changing room to lads with big games when things are not going right, and
Like
obviously,
rugby league raw when you were at Lee
yeah,
and that.
yeah.
How good was that? Yeah.
That was good that day because we rocked up that day, and Lee had a fluorescent light that was flickering, and it was renowned. And we had Sean Richardson, obviously, who played at Lee, and he was in our
Yeah.
team. And Sean took a little starting motor, and he put it in the fluorescent light, and the guy who looks after the thing come past. He was like, "Hey, who's done that? We fixed our light." Well, we fixed the light, because it wasn't flickering.
Yeah.
Brilliant, yeah. Yeah, so that day was a special day. That was really good,
Yeah.
really good.
So did you say you were at LSH when
Yeah,
you
yeah,
first done that? Yeah.
yeah. No, I was still at LSH, obviously. Tuesday, Thursdays, and that Saturday. So it was
Yeah.
it was good. It was like sort of combined, being able to combine the two as well. And obviously Ray French was there, which was absolutely brilliant because he's an absolute top man, absolutely.
So how long were you at LSH for? Because I'd
Nine,
have played against your teams. So
yeah,
I'd have been 2013,
yeah,
14, 15.
something like that. Yeah, yeah. I think I was there
Yeah.
for like 10. So I did 9 years there actually. Uh,
That's a good stint, that mate, innit?
yeah, it is because I started. Eric Hughes actually. He sort of Alan Walker rang me up. I said about Alan Walker before. He rang me up and he said, listen, he said, you're interested in coming down to do some coaching. So we're looking for a forwards coach, but it'll be a second team heads coach, paid position. And he said, will you come down and meet Eric Hughes at training on Monday night? So I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. So I went down to Moss Lane, and Alan comes. He said, "I finally got you after all them phone calls on a Sunday. I finally got you here at Moss Lane." So a lot of respect for him. He was lovely. Eric walked in and he just said, "Oh, this is Paul." And he's forwards. He said, "Well, you're from Widnes." He said, "So you're a forwards coach, so it's good to have you on board." And that was it. And I got on well with Eric then really well, because Eric was, he was good to be around. He was, very fortunate. But I think I was blessed a little bit with coming from Widnes sometimes, that I did a few things, and it was because I'm from Widnes, he let me get off with it, so that was good. Yeah, it was a good experience with him, that. And then obviously he left, and we had Gary French took over for a season, and then I took over after Gary, and then that was a tough couple of years, that, because obviously we'd lost a lot of players, because again, paying players that had gone. So literally a lot of my second team lads who were a good team, very good team, playing in a tough league. We sort of moved them up into the first team, and then we found it difficult for the first few weeks. But I've got to say, Ray French was just outstanding. It was affecting me at home. I wasn't sleeping. I was feeling really, what can I do here? How can I change it? Type of thing, And for a little bit, I was doing it on my own, which was even harder. And then Ray just pulled me to one side one day. He just said to me, "Come here." And he put his arm around me and he just said, "Listen, you're doing a great job in difficult circumstances. If we lose every game this year, you will not be sacked." And I just thought, and I look back on it, and then from Christmas we started getting it together, and I just thought that was a massive force of confidence at that time, and it helped me. And looking back on it, it was just unbelievable. This forward thinking of
well, man management as well, Woody. You touched on it before, didn't you?
taking the pressure off me, and I just thought that was class,
Yeah. No, it is a nice touch.
And he became a friend after as well. We used to meet him all the time, no matter where. Then we used to meet every couple of weeks on a Friday. We go for lunch in St Helens and stuff, So and then it was funny because when I was at Widnes, a very funny story. It was like when Stuart took over, and they brought me back in as assistant coach. We beat Wakefield at home, so it was our first win really together. So we're in the changing rooms, a knock on the door. And he said, "Paul Woodward, Radio Merseyside." So I'm like, "I'll get out of this." And like, no, Paul Woodward, Radio Merseyside. So I goes out and I go right to the end of the tunnel, and Ray French is up the top, these big headphones on. He's, come up, like so. So walks all the way up to the top, and I'm like this. What's he going to say here? So he sits down and puts these big headsets on, and then he starts talking. He said, "Listen, just go along with it." He said. And when I do that, they counting us in, so they count us in. And they go, "Welcome to Halton Stadium." He said, "We had a big Widnes, we had a great win today," and all this. And they beat Wakefield and Stuart Spruce, and he said, "We've got Paul Wood here," and he just brings me straight in. Then he starts talking, about the win and how do we get the win, and I just mentioned about the defence, what we decided to do with Cocky and stuff like this, And then at the end of it, he just said, "Well," he said, "it's been a pleasure talking to you. Let you get back down to the change room. I'll see you at Moss Lane on Tuesday for some hot pot." And I just thought,
and that's what it's about, mate, innit?
Yeah, that was just absolutely class. And then obviously, a lot of Widnes people at the time were all going on talking about it because they listened to the Talk Sport or whatever afterwards, saying what a great interview that was, But that was it. Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
So did you come back to Widnes before you went to Vale?
To Widnes rugby.
On the Sprogger?
No, I was basically at Liverpool St Helens. I'd gone, what it was, I stayed at Liverpool St Helens, and then, funny enough, I was actually employed during the day as a rugby union development officer. That's why I left Widnes at the time. I weren't working at Lee Rugby Union Club as the full-time development officer, going around a few schools.
Okay.
And when Widnes got back in touch with me, it was like just near the end of the schools, coming up to summer holidays, and Sprogger rang me on the Sunday night and said, "Listen, Tony Chambers has, asked me to take over, and I've asked him for you to come because I want to get someone familiar in with the squad and stuff, and the lads respect you. So thinking about bringing you, back in. I said that'll never happen. And within an hour he rang me and said, "No, you're on. You're definitely on." So I had to ring
Right.
my boss up then. Dave,
Yeah.
a lad called Dave Phillips, lovely fella. Ring him up and said, "Listen, I've been employed with Witness and all this." I said, "I might have to step away from." He said, "Well, can you still get down on a Wednesday night?" I said, "Well, yeah, I can." He said, "Well," I said, "you can stay here." He said, "Not many rugby union clubs have got a Super League coach as their development." So for
Well,
the
joking aside, it's clever, isn't it?
yeah, so the last
Yeah.
next couple of well, it was about 3 weeks, 4 weeks for the end. I did that as well, So yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, it's good.
Class.
Yeah,
So how did leaving LSH come about, and then how did going to Vale come about? Because that's some commitment, that mate.
yeah. Well, what it was I'd come to sort of the end of my time, and then we was a little bit of a transition period where a couple of lads were retiring and not playing. So then he brought in a couple of different coaches in, and literally I wasn't probably seeing eye to eye with one of
Yeah.
them. So I thought, well, at the end of the season I'm going to be leaving. So I left, and what happened then was Lancashire asked me to go and do a couple of coaching scrummaging sessions up at Vale. So I went up and done a few sessions up at Vale, which I did there. Literally enjoyed it. And then what happened was Jimmy Moore was brought in as the player coach, who was Sale FC and Sale, and also Exeter Chiefs. He just moved back into the area as an accountant, so he was a very good player. So he come along as the coach, and then after obviously I did 10 sessions. It was coming to the end of my sessions. The season's about to start. He decided he didn't want to be the coach. He just wanted to play. So then the club asked me would I do it. So literally I started it, and then we played in the Lancashire Trophy final straight away against Broughton Park at Chesley, which we won.
Right.
So and then
Superstar straight
yeah,
off.
straight away. It was just unbelievable that. What a start. But then I did 3 years up there, which
Yeah.
it was a bit of a drive, obviously, but a very enjoyable time. A lot of lovely people up there. And I was there a few weeks ago with the club, and again, it's just like I'd only left yesterday. A lot of people. Unfortunately, there's a few not there now. Sadly passed away, but there's a lot of people there, and it was hard trying to get out of the club to get back on the bus to come back to Widnes, which is a nice feeling, it's
It's a
lovely.
good sign, that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
And
again,
for viewers and listeners that don't know Woody, sorry, so it's Lancaster, mate, isn't it?
yeah,
It's
it's Lancaster.
it is
Yeah,
a decent drive, yeah.
it's a good run up there. Yeah, and then
You
obviously,
had a good team there though, mate, didn't you?
yeah, top
You were
two.
top four all the time,
Yeah,
weren't you?
yeah. It was a good. We had some good lads. We had little Gazza at scrum half as well.
Yeah.
Wilson, who's obviously been at Preston Grasshoppers, played for Lancashire, and anti-assassins and everything. He was a good lad. But I inherited a couple of them lads because they were already there when I got there.
Right.
And then I brought Nicky Royal, which was a good coup for us.
Yeah.
But I'd had Nicky Royal at Liverpool St Helens anyway, so
Lad, yeah.
I said he went off
Yeah.
to file from there, So
Yeah.
I'd looked after him a few times.
Right. No, because you did. I remember like all the games were dead physical that we played. We tended to do well against you, to be fair, but
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
all dead physical and that. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be watching out for the Wids lads as well during that, which was really weird.
Yeah.
Making sure everyone
Yeah.
was all right in that red and black jersey.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it was. It's
weird.
like I said, I didn't really know you then, mate, but it must have been awkward for like your mates that were still involved, and just
Yeah,
as awkward for you. But I
yeah,
didn't really like know you. I just used to say I liked you. I didn't really know you back then.
yeah. No, I remember you as a player, and that.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it was weird, But again, it was a funny situation to do it because I've done it in a couple of different clubs, and so but the same sort of feeling, it's the Wids,
Yeah.
it's weird. But again, on that,
Imagine West Park was a bit early. Oh, go on, Paul. Sorry.
no, I just said it to been on that journey has been really special. Like I said before,
Yeah.
to finish it back off here has been even more special. It's made it all worthwhile as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very, very worthwhile at times.
sometimes it takes the other party to not have you around to realise what they had when you were around, and vice versa, don't it? Sometimes you have got to go away to come back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that helped me develop my coaching. And to be honest, I think if you know, because obviously at Widnes, I had an opportunity to get the Widnes training at the Wids and stuff like that. You know, the introduction was that as well. You know, we
yeah.
said,
When the academy played
yeah,
there
that
and
was
stuff.
our base, and
Yeah,
that the forward thinking of like how many rugby union clubs are going to have academies playing at those when the season's over. So you know
yeah.
that again was a good little mindset that you know me and Neil had, you know, again to sort of progress the club because he enjoyed the Wids, we enjoyed training there as well. You know that was very surreal. Doing some rugby league drills with some of them lads on the Wids pitch, you know, that was very surreal.
And it was, but hey, it used to be busy, mate, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And as I said, a couple of times I've looked across at the lounge window and I've seen Robert Relf and Shane, they're like just coming round the corner, hardly been able to walk because they're that stiff and agony from the day
yeah.
before. And then watching them walking back after some food when they've done a training session and they're back to normal, you know.
I had Ralph on my jersey. What a signing he was, and Millard for that matter.
I,
He was
yeah,
smart, bit like signing wise, wasn't he, Neil?
yeah.
Recruitment wise,
Oh,
he
yeah.
knew
We
a
did.
player when he seen one, didn't he?
Yeah, I did. We had a few, you know.
Yeah,
Obviously, we had Brian Sheridan as well, you know, which I had in
yeah.
South Africa. We were very fortunate to go to the Blue Bulls. Me and Ryan we did a session. I did a session with the forwards. He did a kicking clinic. So yeah, a very funny story with that one as well. You know, it was really good. We don't really want me to tell it you now, or you're going to edit it, or yeah.
It depends what it's like, mate.
Oh no,
I'll let you tell me
no,
later.
it's not bad. We
Yeah,
when we were training, obviously Neil Heineken Mayo was the coach at the Blue Bulls at the time, who was ended up being the
yeah,
Spring coach, and he invited out for a meal. Well, they'd won the Curry Cup, you see, the Blue Bulls.
right.
So he was like Alex Ferguson walking in when he's at his pomp, you know what? And we went to this restaurant, it was full. We said, we're never going to get in here. It's shocking. And he'd only invited the coaching staff, like, you know. So we went. Next thing, they come over making a big fuss of him, and everybody's clapping in this restaurant. We walked through to the back into this lovely little table, sits down. It's all been done and everything. So we had a lovely meal, nice and quiet, away from everybody else in the restaurant. And then Neil dropped in that I'd been doing some work for the RFU on scrummaging and stuff. So he said, "Oh, would you like to come down and do a session?" And I'm thinking. So he just said, "Yeah, yeah, you come down," and then he mentioned Ryan Sheridan going Ryan doing like a little kicking clinic, like you know. So on the next day we were off, you see. So that was like a leisure day. We were supposed to be going off into Pretoria, and they said, "We'll come and pick you up in the car." So they come and picked us up. And I called John McFarlane, who was like the technical director for the Blue Bulls. So he goes along to do this session, and it's all videoed and all this. And there's people speaking Afrikaans and I'm from Widnes. I haven't got a clue what they're saying, and they ask you questions. You know, and I remember this big prop because they brought the university in as well, Pretoria University, because they looked after that as well. So
Yeah,
we did a session. Like this prop's asking me about something about getting low in the scrum, and I'm trying to tell him, and I'm thinking, I can't. I said, yeah, come here. So I don't get to him, takes down. I just went bump, but I dropped him down, you know. And he gets up like this bit of grass drops off his nose. And I said to the fella, if it's not comfortable, just drop it down. You know, and then you make it comfortable yourself by, you know. So he told me, oh yeah, yeah. It's like, you know. Anyway, just before the session finishes, this guy comes up. He says, listen, he said, the Widnes team have decided they're going off into this shopping mall, which was like the Trafford Centre. So
yeah,
we, you know, they were supposed to be waiting for us. So me and Ryan's like, you know, what's going on? Like, so he said, don't worry about it. Hanukkah may get to this walkie-talkie. And then the next thing we get met, took into this thing, right? First of all, you're going to go to the shop and you can get anything you want out of the shop, you know, just go and get some stuff, some t-shirts, some stuff, you know, because we only had our Widnes stuff on. So he
yeah,
goes into this shop, I get a lovely Mr. Price Blue Bulls t-shirt, get some shorts, pick some up for our Daniel as well. Ryan gets some stuff as well. Like, so he goes off to this shower. This guy gives us these lovely towels, shower gels, and everything. So he gets all ready. And of course, we had our sort of flip flops on because we'd travelled.
yeah.
So we had a little bag. We had another bag with the Blue Bulls things. And this fella drops us off at this shopping mall. So as we get to the shopping mall, he comes up in the lift and he gets out, and there's a smoothie bar and all the lads are all there. And as we walked out, Martin Cronton, who's absolutely a lovely fella, he just yells, "Hey up, it's the twins, Arnie and Danny DeVito." And we both had like Mr. Price
Yeah.
t-shirts on, like, so we're just walking off, like, you know. So yeah, so that was a funny experience, that, you know, because Martin was a really funny lad, like, yeah, really funny. Yeah, and again, just like an experience like that, you know, where we were staying was absolutely lovely. There's one more funny story. We stayed in it. It's called the Farm Inn, which is in Pretoria, but it's a lion and cheetah sanctuary, you know, because the guy who owns it's conservation. So all the money from the hotel goes towards supplying looking after the animals. And where we were staying was all these like huts. They were absolutely lovely, but they're away from the main building. And there was like a big massive pool in the middle of it with fencing around it, like electricity. And there's all these funny noises at night. And then you'd hear the lions at about 11 o'clock roar, you know, because they obviously let everybody know that they're there, type of thing. This is what they told me. So this night we'd done a good session, training session, and then we'd had a meal what they put on for us. And we're all sat in the main bar in this hotel. And Anthony Farrell, who used to play for Leeds, he used to have the PlayStation in their room, you see, so they used to play loads of games in their room. And they decided he wanted to go to bed. Well, Ryan McDonald was in there. He was the Cumbrian lad, into the like, really top, petrified in noises and stuff. So phone goes, Mr. Ralph. So Robert gets the phone. He says to him, "No, you'll have to come here. I'm not coming over there. I'm having a drink with the lads." And puts the phone down. So we said, "What's up?" He said, "Ryan wants the room key. He wants to get back in the room. He wants to go to bed." He said, "Told him to come here." Well, that means he had to walk out through this little lighting area to get across to the main hotel. So we're all laughing, like, you know, thinking, you know, the next thing, this guy goes out with a Coke on a tray and walks out. And the next thing, he comes back with Ryan linking him, bringing the Coke back. So he rang him to get some Coke.
Just as well.
So it was a glass of Coke to walk him back to the main part where he was. And then he ended up staying with us then for another hour.
It's clever, that, though, isn't it?
Yeah, very clever. I think everyone was impressed with that, yeah. But he was another funny lad, you know, he just linked him, put in with him. This lad's got the Coke still, you know. Yeah, really good.
So imagine, mate, coming from Vale, West Park was a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I mean, what it was, my granddaughter was born as well, you know, our puppy was born then, so that was something that, you know, obviously changed my life a bit, you know. And what happened was a lad who used to play for me at LSH, Chris Stabler, he was the head coach. He's having a few little issues. And so he rang me up. He said, "Listen, I know you finished it, Bill. Would you mind coming in and helping me, you know, with a couple of little sessions with the forwards and stuff?" I said, "Yeah, I don't mind," like, you know, because he was a lovely lad. So I went up to West Park and I did about 4 or 5 sessions for him. And then that was it. Then he decided then, because he's at Sale, he was up at my school now. He's gone on with his coaching way, and he just said to me, "Listen, I've done these as far as I can take them. I think if you take over, you know, you might take them to that next step." So I said, "Yeah, I'll see how it goes." I enjoyed it. We went over to the Isle of Man. We had a really good win in the Isle of Man, and it was a really good day, you know, on that Saturday. And I just thought, yeah, it's not bad, lads. They're only down the road. It's 2 minutes. So I ended up taking over, and yeah, we had a good few seasons. We had a good team, and we got promoted as well. You know, which was a good, you know. And again, I did 3 years there, and I decided to stop. Well, I finished because of I did threaten the lads in the summer if there's any lack of commitment, so I won't be coaching. So I remember the 5th of November, we had 8 or 9 lads at training, so I just gave the keys and said I've had enough. And all the lads rang me then, and they were a bit upset and everything. I just said no, I did say that, so that's my shot.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I didn't do anything then until I got the invitation off Andy to come and do something at the Wids.
Right. And what was that like, mate? Did you have to think much about that?
No, yeah, Andy. I've spoke to Andy off and on, obviously, you know, with the years before with coaching, especially with Park and stuff like that. And he just approached me. It was my sister-in-law's funeral, actually. We was at the club, and it was on a Thursday night, and I seen all the lads coming past, and I was sat there at Howard's windows just waving to a couple of them. You might get it, all them who I go back a long way with. And Andy just came talking then, and he just said, would you mind coming down doing a session for us? I said, well, I've always come down and do a couple of sessions. I said, I'll see, I've always been honoured to come down and do something, really. So he just said, we'll see how it goes, and he said, I'd like you to come on a bit more, if you take it on a bit, than a couple of sessions if need be. So I said, yeah, I'll see how it goes. And I really enjoyed it. When I went, it was nice talking to some of the lads. I think some of the lads were a bit, they used to go to West Park or whatever. So he was trying to sort of win them over. But it was a funny position as well for me, because obviously I was used to obviously being in charge as well, so it was, but again, Andy invited me in, and I think, I've been very fortunate the last few years to experience what we have, and do what we've done as well, to be a part of that.
So, well, you mentioned it, mate. So the Holy Grail is Twickers in it, but there was promotion, wasn't there? We've consolidated now.
Yeah, Papa John's.
Twickenham was in the middle.
That's Darlington. That was a great there. Absolutely brilliant there. Yeah. It was special then for them. Well, I've got the photograph here, actually, all what the lads give us. It's the obviously the Papa John's, the Twickenham in the middle, and then when we got promoted at Old Winians, so good photos to keep.
You can walk away from that side of the game, mate, very content, can't you? You've achieved so much, and the full circle happened, which is, I imagine, the best feature of all of it, really.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. And again, I just feel so very fortunate in that, people keep saying to me, well, at the end of the day, you wouldn't have been doing it if you weren't capable of doing it. I said, I know, but it just sometimes, some people go under the radar, don't they? And I just think that, again, little links that I've had, you said before about networking, that's helped me as well, which hopefully I've done that for other people as well, which has been good. And some of the messages I've had have been just unbelievable, of people that I didn't expect, private messages, and it's just been, I've been blown away, to be honest. Me and my wife have been sat here with a box of tissues with some of them, Yeah, just lovely, and it makes it all worthwhile. Makes that journey up to Lancaster and all that worthwhile, because you're always welcome there. And one of the messages was, you're always welcome here. It'd be lovely to see you now as you've got a bit of spare time and that. So yeah, it's really good. And the West Park lads were brilliant last year when we went, because obviously my wife's been going through cancer treatment and stuff, and I went, basically what happened, the players had done a little bit of a card and signed a card and stuff like that, and then they give me a lovely thing for my wife and the card, and I thought that was lovely, they took that on board.
Yeah, it's classy, isn't it? It's classy, yeah.
That's good, and that's the type of players you like to be around, isn't it? It's not just blinkers on, it's looking at the bigger picture, like we said before about selections and stuff like that. Look at the bigger picture, definitely.
Yeah. No, and I've got a few daft questions for you before I let you go, mate.
Go on then.
So, any pre-match superstitions as a player or a coach?
Well, I was thinking of this before. Last one out. I used to always be the last one out onto the field.
Even as captain?
No, off the field,
coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, I was last one out of that. Before I was captain, I always made sure I was last one out on the field.
Yeah.
Then obviously captain, that was a little bit different. Coaching wise, I just have a little black bag. You might have seen me taking this little black bag down. I have a little black bag. Yeah. I have to admit, and if that's not with me, I'll come back and get it. I have a little clipboard with me with a few of my friends on it who are not with us anymore. So I've got the little mass sheets on there. So I have to make sure they're with me all the time.
I like that.
Yeah. I just think that they're not with me. And some of them, two of them were my team managers. One of them was my uncle, who was my god. And I only found out when he died how much he had all my clippings from when I was playing at the Wids, all cut out.
like a scrap, but yeah,
Yeah, and that was just unbelievable. That you could make.
yeah.
Yeah, he was.
That's lovely, that though, isn't it?
Yeah, but he did a lot of
Yeah.
Runcorn Highfield as well. He was quite big there.
Okay.
Yeah, so he did a lot
Nice.
there, But you don't realise how much until I knew he'd been watching a few games and stuff like that. But
More than a few, yeah.
I took him. His daughter knows he's been to quite all the games with me and everything on my clipboard and that. So yeah.
No, I like that, mate. That's nice. So the next word, mate, the definition is different for everybody, but the toughest player you played with and against.
I'll put that down somewhere. And toughest player I've played with, you're going to laugh at this. There's quite a few. That's Steve Fields. Always had.
I'm not going to laugh at that, mate. I know
No,
what Field is about.
always had your back, Steve. Always had your back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what a gent though as well, isn't he?
Yeah, lovely man. And again, when we see him, always get a hug off him and stuff, and he always says we've been in the thick of it and stuff, and he's a nice lad, top fella. And I've been in with quite a few different players, some of the Lancashire Cup winning team, we had 3 back rowers there that you wouldn't want to get in any phone box with. But got Steve, always there for you and still is. Even to this day, he's come and spoke to me and talked to me and stuff. And even when I've come with other clubs, him and Brian Gill used to be absolutely outstanding. Yeah.
Right, mate. So, favourite away ground you've played or coached at?
Can I throw this one in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Loftus Versfeld.
Well, yeah, you've done all right, haven't you?
I'm not trying to be thingy on that one.
No, yeah.
I have never been to a stadium. Twickenham was absolutely fantastic, but to go to there and train there for the amount of time we did, and have a look
that's there and stuff.
And walk into the middle of that field, and it was just unbelievable. It's even now I've got her standing on the back of my neck, believe it or not, because just walking there, just thinking, wow, how would you love to be playing rugby here every day? It's just unbelievable. Yeah, great setup.
Is there a player you'd love to have played with that you didn't manage to?
Emosi Kaloto.
Yeah.
I love
Did he have a spell at the Wids, or did he just coach?
He was coaching.
He?
He only played one game when he's coached. It's an away game, all Williams, because someone was going around knocking people off the ball. And he tried to explain it. So he scores this jersey on, went on the field, made a tackle on this lad and said, that's how you do it, and walked back off it. And then poor Spike, poor Spike got the job of telling him he was sacked.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what a brave man.
Yeah, but again, he's another friend. He sent a message with Nicky Preston the other week. Nicky bumped into him in Christchurch in New Zealand, and he said, how's Woody doing? And send a message on, which was absolutely lovely, because I got on really well with him. He was a good lad.
So I know you touched on it a little bit before, mate, but if you could tell a younger you something, what would it be?
Well, I just say get involved in sport, and make sure you're fully committed, enjoy it, and make sure that you give it your best. And it doesn't matter if it's not the very best, so long as you're giving it your best. Get involved in sport, be a part of the team.
I don't like that. I think it's a character builder, team sport. Everything's transferable.
Yeah,
you just don't realise it as a kid, do you?
No, I went through school and I wasn't academically very good. And sport has looked after me all my life. Yeah. I got invited I used to coach at Cowley. I coached at Cowley sixth form college with Rob Evans, and I did that. Even when Saints had moved there, but I did Cowley. So literally, I was employed doing the sixth form there with them, with the rugby union stuff, and it was really good actually. But they invited me to do a little talk about how much education means and stuff like that. So I'm in there talking to all these in this little lecture thing, and I'm chatting away about,
yeah.
my biggest regret was I didn't at school. I didn't concentrate academically. I did do this and do that and all this and that. Next thing I went to stop and somebody put their hand up and said, "You've not done too bad, have you?"
You're not wrong, yeah.
The lecturer's like that. Yeah, so literally it was one of them, wasn't it?
Brilliant.
You're there,
Yeah.
you're
Good
there, and
fact though, mate. You
yeah,
can't argue with fact, can you?
yeah, clever lad. Yeah, so that
So,
went.
what did the lads have you sing, mate? Is your karaoke or initiation song? Did they get you do one?
Um, I did one on the bus. It was
Yeah.
Tom Jones when coming back from Sunderland. Yeah, but my favourite one was Dirty Old Town.
Yeah, is that your go-to? Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and I love Josh Salter singing it as well. So I just we did it in the Isle of Man this year. We took over in the Pound Bar, and we
Oh
had
yeah.
girls singing, and I said to her, like, oh, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. So the next thing we said, well, just get the music up and we'll sing it. So we're in this Pound Bar, and the next thing the guy who's with her gets the music up, and then she has a break. This girl and gives the mic to Josh, and Josh gets up. But of course, we all go into full voice then, don't we, singing? And basically, was it? And the next thing
Yeah.
she's trying to drag the mic back off him.
She made the mistake, didn't she, giving
Yeah,
it him?
yeah, but it was literally because we took over, like, So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a song that I play sometimes at home actually now, because it just reminds me of some of the good times I've had in the last few years. I believe it or not, I quite enjoy it, and quite enjoy the way we all get involved in it as well. So hopefully at the club dinner somebody can break that
Put
out.
it
It
on.
would be really good. Yeah, yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Funny how songs just stick with you, isn't it? And
Yeah.
luckily that the last couple of years we've had those three very important historical victories. Well,
Yeah.
two, and they're going to Twickenham, but literally
Yeah.
that song's been a big part of it.
Yeah. Soundtrack of your life at the Wids, mate, really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, some good times. I think songs, you know yourself, songs take you back. I mean, there's a few songs that Witness people used to put them on.
Yeah.
That one, will always stick with me. That, yeah, definitely.